Hey guys! Today we are going to be talking about the University of California personal insight questions, and I know there are 8 of them that we need to get through. So I'm splitting this video up into 2 sections. In the first section, I'm going to give you general pointers on how to structure your personal insight question essay because I know it's only 350 words, but it still is an essay. So I'll go into some pointers because I've seen a lot of people make these exact mistakes before. The second part of this video, I'm going to analyze every single one of the UC PIQ prompts 1 through 8, and I will try to just hit on 1 or 2 points, things that I think you need to keep in mind as you write it. So I will try to be as quick as I can because I know it's a lot of information, but very, very important information if you are applying to any University of California school. Before we get straight into part 1 of this video, hey guys, I'm Priya. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am so excited to have you here. I graduated from the University of Chicago last year, majored in astrophysics, and now I work as a data scientist, and I'm really here to just help you get into college. I am very, very new to YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. It really supports my channel, and smash that like button for that YouTube algorithm, and let's get straight into this video. My first biggest point is that this should not be one block of text. Don't just have a wall of text, like 350 words that aren't separated into paragraphs. Yes, I know it's only 350 words compared to the Common App. It really isn't that much, but you should still have an intro, middle, and conclusion. Your intro and conclusion might just be a couple sentences where you really set the scene in the intro, like you hit them with the main point in 2 sentences, and then you go into describing it in the middle. And in your conclusion, you reflect on what you've learned and what you want to do in the future. Separating into these sections really helps create a narrative for your reader. And structuring is really powerful because it directs the reader to specific points that you're trying to make. So don't make that mistake of not having your paragraphs. The second point, you can really pick any 4 of these PIQs to write. So essentially for your UC application, you need to pick 4 out of these 8 that you want to write on. So there's really no preference. It's all about you. Don't write to impress the reader. Pick prompts that truly speak to you and try to convey your story through them. Be honest and be personal. That is biggest piece of advice I can give you guys for college essays. And lastly, let's go through a couple of quick general essay pointers that I always harp on when I talk about college essays, and then we'll get straight into the analysis. Always write about things that haven't been explained in detail in your profile anywhere else. So if you're going to write about an activity that you mentioned in your activity section, totally all right, as long as you didn't go into detail anywhere else. Pick something that you want to really expand on, something that they wouldn't know unless they read this essay. And always introduce anecdotes to hone in on the points that you're trying to make. An example would be, rather than just saying that you love dogs and, going on with your life in your essay, you could describe a scene where you and your dog go hiking, you spend quality time together, and you really describe that like love and warmth that you feel during that whole experience. And you could do that whole anecdote in 2 sentences, and that's a lot more impactful than just saying the straight fact. So don't forget to always invoke anecdotes. That's what makes your essay personal, the specific things that happen to you. Great, so we're done with the general pointers. Let's go straight into prompt analysis. Okay, so this is the dreaded leadership prompt that you're probably writing several versions of for all of the different colleges you're applying to. My biggest piece of advice for this is that it doesn't have to be related to like an extracurricular or student organization at school. Amazing if you are the president, vice president on the exec board of a student organization, but if you're not, leadership comes in many forms. You could be a leader in your household, you could be a leader in your community, really anything. It doesn't have to specifically be extracurriculars, although I know that's what most people end up writing about. But when you brainstorm points for this essay, don't just harp on school stuff. Think about what else you've done, what makes you a leader. And there are several different kinds of leaders. You don't just have to be an authoritative figure. Like, yes, you can write about your camp counseling experience where you actually were an authoritative figure to children, but you could also be a collaborative leader where you led a team together. So don't limit yourself in your perspective of what a leader is. An example of being a leader could even be just taking a job and working part-time outside of high school to help your parents pay the bills. You are stepping up to plate, you are helping your family, you're doing something that's really helpful, you're collaborating. That's an example of being a leader too. Now let's go into the next one. I love this prompt. So when I applied to the UCs, I did not do this one, which I regret, because now I definitely would have picked this. This prompt essentially gives you complete creative license. Like, you can really write about whatever makes you happy. This prompt is completely about your happiness and what invokes your happiness. So this is a really personal one. I can't tell you exactly what you should write, but I could give you an example of what I would write. For example, I'd honestly write about writing. Like, that's actually how I express myself. So I have been a pretty analytical person, just like career-wise, major-wise, just like, you know, throughout my life, the classes I've taken. But I have a huge part of me, like, I love history. I wanted to double major and I couldn't fit it all into the 4 years. So I ended up getting my history minor, but I love history. I love telling stories. And I feel like that's really how I get to express myself. It's through words, it's through crafting stories. You can make the most mundane thing sound absolutely beautiful through the right writing. And that is so crazy to me. Like, that's just how I choose to express myself, I guess. So I would probably just write about that and contrast it with the other parts of my life that I guess take dominance, like the quantitative, analytical side of the things I do, with writing as my release, writing as the polar opposite almost. Although they aren't polar opposites, I construct it that way in my essay, that it's like my polar opposite, and that's how I get away from my real life. Like, it plunges me almost into like an alternative reality. Let's go on to the next one. So this one honestly is pretty straightforward, but my biggest point here is that you want to tread carefully, because you don't want to come across as like a humble brag, but you also want to be assertive and you want to show them that this is your skill. This is something that you have perfected and you have worked hard to perfect. Remember that this doesn't have to be specifically a hard skill. Like, it could be a hard skill. It could be learning an instrument, programming an app, or whatever you did where you actually put in hours and you have a tangible product. But it could be a soft skill as well. Like, honestly, it could be about communication. If you were always shy growing up and you learned to get out of that and you learned how to break past your shell, like, that is a skill. So there are a lot of different skills you can choose from. It could be a hard skill, it could be a soft skill, really whatever you want. For me, I would probably say my skill is like problem solving, honestly, just because that's the way problems are presented to you in physics. You're given a pretty abstract problem and you need to take a step back and really figure out step by step how to analyze it, how to get to your answer without overwhelming yourself. So I feel like that's a skill that I really like cultivated through all of my years in physics, and now I could actually apply it like in data science, which is pretty much like math and logic based. So, you know, that's probably what I would write about. So this one is kind of a two-pronged question where you have to pick one or the other. So you either pick an educational opportunity that you took advantage of, or you talk about how you overcame an educational barrier. So first off, you have to choose one or the other, right? If you choose the first one, it's really about how you took advantage of the opportunities around you to further your education, further yourself academically. So of course, it could be an honors program, it could be very difficult classes, it could be the fact that you took community college classes while you were in high school to complement your learning experience. But it could also be about, like, you know, fundraising to get your debate team to go to a competition that's further away, or just little things like that where you really went out of your way to make use of the opportunities that you were given in school. Especially if they offer, you know, submitting proposals and you getting funding from it, like, that's you taking initiative of an opportunity that they provide for you on campus. If it's an educational barrier, then of course that kind of leads into a challenge type essay where you have to highlight what the challenge is, probably in the first 2 sentences as a very short introduction. You really like lead in and introduce that challenge, but then throughout the essay, you go with how you overcame that challenge and what you learned from it. The next prompt is actually about challenges, so I'm going to show you that prompt, and then this part of the prompt, like the educational challenge or the educational barrier, kind of relates to what I'm going to say next. So I'm going to move on to that prompt. Okay, so this yeah, about a challenge you faced. Again, this is like a quintessential college essay prompt that everyone is probably writing several versions of for different schools. Here's where you really have to emphasize growth, right? Because you have a challenge and you got past that challenge. So you need to detail how you learned while you were getting past that challenge and how you implemented what you learned in the future. So it's not just about overcoming a challenge, but it's about how you implemented your personal realizations from that challenge in other parts of your life. Like you actually learned something as you got past this. So always in the bulk of your essay, like I would say like 70%, maybe 60 to 70% of your essay should really be about how you got past this challenge, what you learned in the process of it, go into personal realizations, growth, and if you can, potentially go into a short example of how you actually implemented what you learned like in your life elsewhere. The way you would structure this essay is starting with the initial sparks of interest. Like go into what really sparked your interest in this academic subject. You could do that in your introduction in just like 2 or 3 sentences and then go into the middle, and that should be, you know, the depth of your essay should be in that middle paragraph, where you go into everything that you've learned in that subject, whether it was in the class or out of the class. So if you do have specific classes that really like enlightened you, gave you an idea about what you want to do in the future specifically, go into those classes, mention them, go into internships, personal research that you've done, community projects, school projects, like, you know, whatever tangible things that you've done that have influenced your love for this major, go into that. And for the conclusion, just end with a couple sentences about how you want to further your career in this field. Is there a specific concentration that you want to pursue in this field? Is there a specific place that you want to get to? Tell them where you want to go and what you hope to achieve with this major. Okay, this is a great prompt because it's really about community involvement. This is about you talking about a tangible effort on your part that you made to change your community for the better. Did you institute change in some way? Like honestly, this could even be like having a voter registration table or like little things that may seem simple, but actually do impact the community. Like even if you got 1 voter registered, that is a huge win and you have impacted your community and you have changed it for the better. So if you have been a part of anything like that, of course, it doesn't have to be something crazy where you like redefined your entire community, but if you did anything that you think could have benefited someone in your community, this might be the right prompt for you. Remember that simple efforts can also be extremely impactful, so don't discount the things that you've done. And lastly, this is really for all you guys who think that the other 7 prompts just weren't enough and you just want to write something else, which is also all right. So yeah, we're pretty much done for today. I know that this video was a bit longer than my usual videos, but I really wanted to give you guys all of the possible information because I know the UCs honestly get, I would say, the most amount of applicants because I got into Berkeley and UCLA when I applied 5 years ago. And that year, I think UCLA had like 70, almost 80,000 people apply that year. So I know that the UCs are extremely popular. So I really hope my essay videos helped. I have a lot of essay videos, so don't forget to check those out. And don't hesitate to let me know if you guys want to see any other videos from me. I am very, very open. This video is actually a suggestion from someone on my TikTok live. So definitely comment down below if there's a video you want to see. I'm going to add it to the list. Don't forget to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys at the next video.